you are on Planet Zero.
Look at that. It's amazing how things changes, how time flies when you're having fun.
I mean, the new record, obviously, you set the record again for the most number ones between you guys and 3 Days Grace. It's like back and forth. Who's got the next single? But number one, 4 weeks in a row. You can't argue with that.
That's crazy, man. That's not normal under any circumstances. It's just, you don't understand, man. Like it's been 2 decades, and when that came down the pipeline, to hold the number one position too, and I'm just like, how is this happening? And honest to God, man, like for real, obviously I give a lot of credit to you, sir, and to terrestrial radio for, being there from day one. But I have to say this because it's 100% the reality. In this band, we only have one boss. It just happens to be everybody in the audience. And we take that so seriously. Our fan base, which we very proudly call Shinedown Nation, whether they've been there from the beginning or they're just finding out who we are, they are some of the most extraordinary people on this planet. And none of that would be possible without them. And also none of it would be possible without people like yourself in radio that have, you've held the flag for this band and for rock and roll for, 2 decades. And it looks like, another element of that looks like rock radio is having a resurgency and making a pretty incredible comeback just in regards to, the number one category right now. If you got to put it into a format, with also the resurgency of vinyl, is the rock and metal format. And it is just crushing right now, man. So we're just happy to be a part of any small bit of it.
Well, checks in the mail. Thank you for that. But
by the way, you too.
Yeah, I don't know. People don't realize you're number one for 4 weeks in a row. That doesn't happen that much at all anymore. Every week, it's crazy to watch the rock chart jockey back and forth. One record nudges itself up, but to hold it for 4 weeks in a row like you have, maybe even the 5th week coming up here, that's crazy. I mean, to think back when you guys started, you probably were dreaming of your first number one record. Here you are all these years later with one that possibly could be there for 5 weeks in a row.
Yeah, another thing too, I got to say something, to be in the same company as a band like 3 Days Grace, we have a long history with them, and we have the utmost respect for those guys, man. We've toured with them before. We've been on multiple festivals with those guys. And to be totally honest with you, also, there's something extraordinary that's happening right now with another group, and that's the Red Hot Chili Peppers, which looks like potentially in the next couple of weeks are going to have not only a number one, because I know they're number one at Alternatives right now. I think they may have crossed into the number one spot on Active, which, obviously jumping, up to the number one spot. But, for Shante coming back to the band with the Chili Peppers, I don't know if you're like me, that's massively nostalgic for me. And to see that band come back, and to, be on the cusp of having a number one at 2 very influential charts. Once again, man, seeing things like that in our community, that's the kind of stuff that makes me like super, super proud, man. Like just to be a small part of what's going on in rock and roll right now.
I don't think people realize that until you guys came around, the record was held by Van Halen. I mean, that's how long that record stood.
Yeah.
Until you guys came around. I mean, you guys really, when you say broke the mold, you really broke the mold with the string of number ones that you've got going on right now. And now I had a chance to hear the next single, and it's a little change of pace from Planet Zero, but man, it's another number one. You know that. I mean, it's just a huge song.
If we will, I think it'll be fun to do this, kind of letting people know there is a song on the new record, and the name of the song is called Daylight. And this is a song that is the complete other side of the record. When you talk about, listen, the band that I'm in, we've been talking about mental health for the better part of 2 decades. And, this is a very, very important song. This was a song that while we were in the studio, when we call this song a gift. Every once in a while on an album, you'll get a gift. And what a gift is it's something that kind of comes out of nowhere and it kind of falls in your lap. And you have absolutely no choice but to see it through and to write it. This is probably one of the more unique songs that the band has put together. It's not laid out necessarily in a traditional format. How it grows and how it kind of is presented to the listener. So it's going to be interesting to see how it's received.
I'm telling you, it's another number one. It's for the radio term, it was a one listen record. I mean, it was just it's a huge song that there's no doubt in my mind. In fact, I think this is one of those songs that you guys are going to find yourself crawling up, as they say, the top 40 chart once again. You're going to be one of those bands that I think finally sets the stage for rock bands to go over into the more contemporary charts, which is incredible as well.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is we want people to understand, it was interesting. And I know that you've been with this band literally from day one.
Yeah.
And I think about the interesting moments in time when I go back to the Sound of Madness album, because we had a song on that record called Second Chance that back in the day, it crossed, all these formats. We actually did it again on that record with a song called If You Only Knew. It crossed over again as well. The thing that people need to understand is, over the years, I mean, I think that Shinedown's been looked at in some ways. I know that certain people at Atlantic, they're very protective of us. When people will go, well, what kind of a band are they? Like, they do all these different things. Like, are they a rock band? Are they an alternative band? Are they a metal band? Are they a pop band? What are they? And Atlantic has always been very, very upfront with everyone about that when it comes to us. And they've just simply said, and our management, our manager, Bill McGathy, has always said, they're Shinedown. That's what they are. Like, you can't really put them into a box, because we are influenced and inspired by so many different styles of music. I think that it should always just come down to the song. But ultimately, we write these songs because we want the world to hear it. And I think embracing, the idea of mainstream just means that, everyone has an opportunity to hear something. And if the song resonates with people, I think ultimately, man, Dylan said it best. All you need is 3 chords and the truth.
Awesome. Which leads me to this, because I read somewhere that you thought the new album was going to be met with controversial and provocative for a whole different reason than one. With people who hear those 2 words, it's not what they're going to think of right away.
No, not necessarily. The thing about it is the records before Planet Zero, one thing about those albums, from the debut all the way to Attention, those albums were written around life experience and about certain scenarios and situations and personal matters. And it's part of the journey. The interesting thing about Planet Zero is that we wrote it in real time with what was going on to all of us in the midst of a pandemic that was 2.5 years, on top of also the world through social media and through, the lens that we all have of everything being on display, and trying to figure out what is real, trying to figure out what is, who's telling the truth, trying to figure out, if people are allowed to have, a human moment anymore. And understanding also too, one of the elements about the record is making a point about, everyone talks about the internet being undefeated, and it's really not true. Mother Nature is undefeated. And I think that sometimes we forget about that. We're on this, incredible planet, and we get selfish with who we are as human beings. You got to remember, we're on this planet and we're sharing it with all different kinds of life. And we need to be respectful of that as well. But I think the dynamic of this record was really about the human condition. And I think that sometimes that means that you're going to have to talk about things that are going to be uncomfortable. But that's the whole point. You have to have conversations about it, because if I disagree with you, that doesn't mean I want to fight you. That means that maybe I need to learn something from you, and I need to allow you to talk so that you can tell me where you're coming from. But if you'll allow me to talk too, maybe we can learn from each other.
You're going to have your name on bumper stickers running for office with speeches like that.
I don't know about that. I would never, I'll be honest with you, man. I would never, I have some close friends that are in Washington and that are a part of that world. And it's a difficult world to navigate, man. I mean, but at the end of the day, you know, honesty is the best policy. It really is. You know, just tell the truth, man. Even if it's going to be difficult, it's just better to tell the truth, because you can't outrun karma.
Which leads me to, you're here the 15th of April. The album comes out a couple days or a week later, called the Saints of Violence and Innuendo, which just the title alone is going to make people wonder and pick up the record just to see exactly where that's all about once they finally get to hear the song, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, look, that song and a lot of the songs on this record, we definitely, you know, our bass player, Eric Bass, who is probably a bass player. I mean, that's one of the elements of what he does. But for people that don't know, maybe, you know, Eric is the producer, the engineer, and the mixer of not only the last album, Attention, Attention, but he's also the main engineer, the mixer, and the producer of this record. Wow. And of Planet Zero. And we did everything. You know, we spent 18 weeks building a studio on his property, because at the beginning of, like, with the lockdown in 2020 and just with the way the pandemic was, I was calling studios around the US going, hey, when do you think you're going to allow people in? And they were like, Brent, we don't know. They're like, at the moment, nobody can come in. And so we just didn't have the agenda of waiting around. So we built a studio. He built a studio on his property in 18 weeks. And there were a lot of favors and a lot of friends that had to come in to make this happen. But, you know, one of the things by doing that was Eric really focused on the dynamic of, this is a rock record, man. This is a very, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of style on the record, but we didn't layer as much on this record. We didn't stack everything as much as we normally do. There's not a lot of effects on this record, especially like with the vocals. Like, he pushed the vocals to the front. A lot of the vocals on the album are dry. There's not really any effects at all. There's no sound replacement in the drums. The guitars are like 2 channels left and right, maybe one down the middle. Everything had to be really ferocious. And, you know, the Saints of Violence and Innuendo is an example of that. And Planet Zero, the song, is an example of that.
But for those that haven't seen the Planet Zero video, it's pretty intense as well. It was kind of cool to see that thing come out. I would guess after the Attention, basically concept video that you guys put out, and then you see the Planet Zero video come out. You guys could be the forebearers of the video coming back for as huge and as I tell you what, it's much more of storytelling with videos that you guys have done than anybody else around lately.
Yeah, and ultimately too, it's interesting. It's something that kind of propels you into the dynamic of the audio side of things, which is always going to inherently touch people, because that's what music does. You know, I've always looked at music as, really, in a lot of ways, music is medicine. But when you attach the visual with it, sometimes people will say, well, are you taking away some of the character of the audio when that person is listening to it because you have kind of a visual that you see? And I'm like, not at all. I think that it's interesting to see kind of where our thought process was visually with it, and the directors that we work with and a lot of the creative people that we work with. I think that music will always be something that's to the individual. You know, the great thing about songs are that their songs are like friends and family that never leave you. Whenever you need to see them and whenever you need them in your life, they're always going to be there for you. And if you miss them, you can always go and see them again.
I'm speaking to you today. If those that don't know, we're taping this. It's World Piano Day, and I saw on your social media site, Zach, on the keyboards doing a little playing of the piano there. I know he used to tour actually around this area in Harrisburg with his band, and it's kind of cool to see him tickling the ivories, as they say, playing keyboard.
Yeah, man. I think we were in Reno, and that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was actually Frank Sinatra's piano that they had there in the facility that we were playing. Yeah, he just sat down, he just started, playing around, and our videographer Sanjay just happened to catch it. Sanjay's great at like catching those little moments where you don't like know he's in the room, and he'll kind of grab these very interesting moments.
Of course, you're going to be here on the 15th. You've already released dates for the back half of 2022. And I got to ask you, Jelly Roll is going to be one of the opening acts. What a cool thing for him to get with you guys on the road.
Oh, man, we're so excited about that. Also, we're bringing our boy John Harvey with us, too, who's an up-and-coming, just an incredible songwriter and just got nothing but tons of energy. But, yeah, man, being able to – we wanted to tour with people that we wanted to tour with, and, same thing with what we got going on with Diamante and Taylor and the boys and the Pretty Reckless. Like, we've been trying to make that happen forever. That was something that was important to us. Like this year, we really wanted to tour with people that as long as they were down to hang out with us, come on and let's show them how it's done.
I don't think you had to twist too many arms there. I saw some pictures of the stage show being built, it looked like, or at least I'm trying to decide what you were going to do with the stage show. How much fun is that when you go back out on the road, and how long does it take?
I think this one's a little bit more fun for Zach and a little bit more stressful for me and Eric and Barry. This was truly all of Zach's idea to do this stage. This is the definition of getting uncomfortable for us, because it's going to, here's the thing. Knock on wood, the audience, when they see it happen, when it's time, I think the audience is going to be like, hell yeah, let's go. But it's interesting, man, because it's a different stage for us. It's an intense stage for us because it's all brand new, and the way that we're doing it, I can't really give too much away with what is actually going to happen. Let's just say we're going to be in the middle of everything. Let's just put it that way.
I like the sound of that. And I also got to ask, because it's so many years in the making now. It's got to drive you nuts just trying to put a set list together every night, because there's so many songs to pick from now, and it's hard to weed out.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that technically Planet Zero, the song, that marks, that's 28 singles that we've released as a band in 2 decades, which is something that's difficult to even kind of like wrap my head around. Very grateful for it. But yeah, man, because there's this thing that you say to yourself, there's part of the show that you yourself as an artist and as the songwriter of these songs, you want to play some different things here and there, but you have to ask yourself, when you're putting a show on a, like this scale with what you guys and girls are going to get, you have to think about the people in the audience that have waited forever to see you and what songs they want to hear. You also have to think about the people that have seen you, 50, 100, 200 times, and what kind of a set list they want to see, and production, and how you're bringing the creative aspect of what you do live to the audience as well. So we try to do our best at balancing the set list as best we can.
Is the same? I would guess maybe not. Is it the same every night, or you divvy it up a little bit differently on from one night to the other?
We have 3 spots in this particular set list where there's 2 to 3 audibles. So there's these 3 sections where it's either going to be 1 or 2 songs of this section. It could be any of like 3 songs in this section. And then there's another section where I think it's another one of those things where it's like it's one or the other. And then the rest of the set list kind of, because of the choreography of this show, the rest of the set list kind of stays the same.
I always had to ask people this too. Since you've been doing this for so long, do you go back and think, oh my God, I forget how to play that song. It's been so long since we took that song up.
A lot of times the muscle memory will take over, even if you haven't like played a song in like, I don't know, say a couple of years even. It's interesting, man. There's something about, I guess, when you write it, it kind of stays with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, there's things where like I get it up there and, you know, Zach wants to pull something from way back in the day and I have to kind of like think about it for a second. I try to never ever go and listen to it. I try to remember it on my own.
Yep.
But yeah, man, there's sometimes I got to go back and look at it, you know, or listen to it and be like, well, how's the melody go to that?
My last question before I get out of here. I always love to ask people if your playlist that you listen to right now that you have on shuffle, what's the weirdest thing that would throw people that you know that you're listening to on there right now?
The weirdest thing?
Or the most unusual that people wouldn't expect? Because I would think you would listen to a little bit of everything.
Probably, I got a playlist for Studio 54 that I pull out because, man, some of that disco era stuff, some of the rhythm section things that are happening with the bass and the kick drum on that stuff, I just listen to it and just remember or forget about, like, that disco era gets put in a very interesting bubble sometimes. Yeah. If you go back and you listen to that stuff, man, the musicianship on some of those records is out of control. Like, especially with the drummer and the bass line and the foundation, the drummer and the bass player, man, this stuff is tight.
Awesome. Let me say thank you again. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. It's always so weird to see your name pop up on a phone, my Zoom. Then, like, oh, it's Brent Smith. My God. But it's going to be awesome to see you here April 15th. And I'm actually, we're telling everybody to get there early too. You don't want to miss Diamante and the Pretty Reckless. So
no, man, get there early. I know that I got numbers a little while ago too. You guys and girls are close to selling out.
Yeah, so, I did too, which is not unusual to me. We're going to put you in the big Hershey Stadium and have you play in front of 30,000 people. That's our goal for you.
Bring it on, man. We will be honored on every single aspect of that. But again, thank you so much for all the support. Thank you to the people and to the station for being there from day one, especially yourself, my friend. It never goes unnoticed. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much and have yourself a good one. We'll see you here in a couple of weeks.
All right. Later, guys.
See you.